Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Titus Andronicus, and we get to hear from Titus today as he kicks off Act 3, Scene 1. But real quick before we get there, we need to know what just happened, and trigger warning, it's going to get hard to hear these recaps. If you saw yesterday's episode, then you know it's coming, but if you skipped it, which I totally understand because it was a rough one, then, just brace yourself. So while they were all out hunting, which was supposed to be like a bringing together of Titus and his family and Saturnius and Tamara and their family, Aaron orchestrated things to make it look like Marcius and Quintus killed Basanius, when really it was Chiron and Demetrius who killed Basanius and then took Lavinia and raped her and cut off her hands and cut out her tongue so that she would never be able to say who it was that did this to her. And Marcius and Quintus fell into the pit where Basania's body was, and then Aaron brings everybody else back in, and Tamara has a letter that Aaron had actually written and given to her, and she's like, look, Titus gave this to me, and it looks like it's a plot, and there's a reward for having killed Basanias. And Aaron's like, yeah, and here's the gold. So he framed things to make it look like Marcius and Quintus killed Basanias, even though they didn't. And this is all part of Tamara's plan to undo Titus and his whole family, to destroy Titus and his whole family, in part because they were in a war against each other for like 10 years, but also in part because he killed her eldest son in the street right in front of her. Well, maybe not right in front of her. He was taken off and dismembered and burned. But anyway, so there's still a lot of bad blood going on between the two. And yesterday we had Marcus Andronicus finding Lavinia sort of after everything had happened to her, and he's devastated by that and says, let's take you to your dad, and this is, seeing you like this will probably kill him. And one thing that's sad, I mean, the whole thing is sad, but one thing that's sad but kind of lovely is in Marcus's speech from yesterday, there's he makes a reference to don't turn away or something like that. So Lavinia is incredibly ashamed of what happened to her, incredibly ashamed. But Marcus takes her in and embraces her and says that he's going to grieve with her, and they're going to go find her dad. And that was the end of Act 2. So at the top of Act 3, we have Marcius and Quintus being marched through the streets by Saturnius and the tribunes and all that sort of thing. They're being taken to be executed, and Titus is in the fray, and he's shouting, hear me, grave fathers, noble tribunes, stay. For pity of mine age, whose youth was spent in dangerous wars, whilst you securely slept. For all my blood in Rome's great quarrel shed, for all the frosty nights that I have watched, and for these bitter tears which now you see filling the aged wrinkles in my cheeks, be pitiful to my condemned sons, whose souls is not corrupted as 'tis thought. For 22 sons I never wept, because they died in honor's lofty bed. For these tribunes, in the dust I write my heart's deep languor and my soul's sad tears. Let my tears stanch the earth's dry appetite. My son's sweet blood will make it shame and blush. O earth, I will befriend thee more with rain that shall distill from these two ancient ruins than youthful April shall with all his showers in summer's drought. I'll drop upon thee still in winter with warm tears. I'll melt the snow and keep eternal springtime on thy face, so thou refuse to drink my dear son's blood. O reverend tribunes, O gentle aged men, unbind my sons. Reverse the doom of death, and let me say that never wept before. My tears are now prevailing orators. He's pleading for his sons' lives, and his big thing here is that for the other 22 sons of his who died, remember there were 21 at the beginning and then he killed the 22nd one, for his other 22 sons that died, he says he never cried because they died honorably, But now he is weeping for these two sons because he believes that they've been wrongly accused. And he's like, I will fertilize the earth forever with my tears as long as you don't fertilize the earth with my son's blood, is sort of what he's saying. He's begging for them to please, please, please not kill his sons. And at some point in this speech, he does actually lie down. It's when he says, "In the dust I write my heart's deep languor." He lies down, and the tribunes and the whole parade of executioners and that sort of thing just keep walking, and they just keep going. And a couple lines later, they're all gone, and he's still just pleading by himself on stage, just, crying out for some sort of help from somewhere to save his son's lives. And then towards the end of his speech, his son Lucius comes in, and when this particular speech is over, Lucius is like, "Dad, they're gone. There's nobody here that's listening to you." And Titus is like, "I'm not done pleading yet." And Lucius is like, "But really, there's nobody here to hear you." And that Titus doesn't let that deter him. He's got some more pleading to do that we'll get to hear in tomorrow's monologue. So I'll see you then for that.